All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about something fascinating, the emotional architecture of the psychedelic brain. We're going to explore how our brains are wired for emotion and how certain compounds, well, they might just be able to help us remodel it.
So let me ask you this. Can just one experience, a single powerful moment, permanently change your emotional life? It's a huge question, right? Can it really reshape how you feel, how you think, for good?
For centuries, people have claimed this is possible. You hear stories all the time. But here's the thing. Now, science is finally starting to catch up and understand how. We're actually beginning to see the proof.
Okay, so to really get this, we're going to use a cool concept, emotional architecture. Just think of it like the internal blueprint for your feelings. It's this whole interconnected network in your brain that processes everything: fear, happiness, memories, you name it. Now, what happens in things like mood disorders is that this architecture can get, well, really rigid, inflexible. People get stuck in these negative loops they just can't break out of. So the big idea here is, what if psychedelics could offer a kind of temporary renovation, a chance to shake things up and create a window to build new, healthier patterns? All right, first up, what's actually happening during the trip? Let's talk about that whole spectrum of feeling. Okay, let's start with the amygdala. You can think of it as the brain's emotional processing hub. And what's so wild is how psilocybin and standard antidepressants, SSRIs, have completely different effects here, like starkly different. So here's the breakdown. On one hand, you have SSRIs, which tend to sort of blunt emotional responses. They turn down the volume. But on the other hand, psilocybin seems to do the opposite in people with depression. It actually increases the amygdala's reactivity. It's not about dampening feelings, it's about re-engaging with them, allowing patients to actually confront tough emotions.
And it's not just about facing the tough stuff. A huge part of the psychedelic experience is this other side, these incredibly profound feelings of unity, bliss, and connection. Researchers even have a name for it: oceanic boundlessness. How cool is that?
Okay, but what about bad trips? I know you're probably thinking it. Aren't they dangerous? It's a super important question, and honestly, the answer might surprise you. Get this, almost 40% of people, that's nearly 2 in 5, rated their most challenging psilocybin trip as one of the top 5 most difficult experiences of their entire lives. Just let that sink in for a second. But here's the twist. A whopping 84% of those same people said they ultimately benefited from that incredibly difficult experience. So it seems that challenging isn't always the same thing as bad. In fact, sometimes it's the very thing that leads to a breakthrough. Okay, so what happens after the trip itself is over? Well, that brings us to the next phase, a really critical window of change often called the afterglow. And this isn't just, coming down. The afterglow is this unique period. It can last from a day to a whole month, where people often report feeling a better mood and being way more open. It's like a window of opportunity opens up.
And you can really see how things unfold over time. In the first hours, you have that intense emotional experience. Then, just one day later, you see that empathy boost kick in. By 1 week, depressive rumination often starts to go down. And after a month or more, you see the potential for lasting positive change. It's a whole process.
Let's talk a bit more about that empathy boost, because this is a big one. It's one of the most consistent findings we have. Both psilocybin and LSD seem to increase emotional empathy, and this can last for weeks. And again, this is so different from some conventional antidepressants, which can sometimes even dampen empathy.
So we've got the trip, we've got the afterglow, but how do these changes actually stick? Well, this is where things get really, really interesting. We're talking about actually rewiring the emotional brain.
There's a scientific term for these kinds of compounds: psychoplastogens. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful, I know. But all it really means is that they're substances that can rapidly promote neuroplasticity, the brain's amazing ability to change and form new connections. And this is what it looks like down at the microscopic level, between your brain cells. That psychedelic molecule latches onto a neuron, and that one little action kicks off this whole chain reaction inside the cell. The end result? It seems to encourage the brain to grow new connections, to literally rewire itself.
So let's break it down. Step 1, the psychedelic molecule binds to a receptor. Step 2, this triggers a whole cascade of signals inside the neuron. And step 3, the neuron is encouraged to sprout new branches and form new connections. It's kind of like fertilizer for your brain, helping new pathways grow.
And that's the whole point, right? This physical rewiring might be the very foundation for those lasting changes in mood and perspective. It's how the brain literally builds new, healthier roads to travel on instead of being stuck in the same old ruts. So, what's next? This brings us to the future of feeling, which is really an unfolding story. I mean, the science is moving at an incredible pace, but there's still so much we don't know. You know, researchers are still working on some huge questions, like what's the perfect dose? How crucial is that mystical feeling for getting long-term benefits? And really importantly, how do we best support people through those tough experiences to make sure they're helpful? We just don't have all the answers yet. So, I want to leave you with this. We've gone all the way from a single experience down to the growth of new connections in the brain. If we really are on the verge of having tools that can help the brain literally remodel its own emotional architecture, what could that mean for the future of mental health? It's a thought that honestly could change everything.